If you're looking to make your first movie and you're not sure about the difference between no budget movies and low budget movies, then stick around. I'm going to explain it here and why it matters to the success of your movie. This is the Blood, Sweat and Duct Tape Film School. Eraserhead is a film like no other. It's set in this strange, industrial, toxic world, and it follows a guy named Henry, a kind of put upon character, as he navigates through life, work, relationships, parenthood. Actually, it's just way better to go and watch it than have me explain it. I really can't do it justice. Made by David Lynch in 1977, Stanley Kubrick once called it his favourite film. It's striking, it's mysterious, it's the stuff of weird dreams and waking nightmares. It also only reportedly cost $10,000 to make. This is why, for me, Eraserhead is a no-budget masterpiece. Reservoir Dogs was Quentin Tarantino's debut feature film. He wrote it whilst he was still working in a video rental store in LA. Set after a failed robbery, it tells the story of a bunch of violent criminals trying to work out what went wrong and who's the rat within their circle. It's brutal, it's violent, it's full of really cool lines. It sprays dialogue across the screen like bullets. It also has a super cool soundtrack and just generally looks like the coolest film made in the early 90s. Reservoir Dogs was made for a reported $2 million. That makes it, in this filmmaker's opinion, a low-budget masterpiece. Eraserhead, a no-budget masterpiece for $10,000. Reservoir Dogs, a low-budget masterpiece for $2 million. So what's the difference? The real difference. And most importantly, why does this matter to future filmmakers? Well, let's start with that second part. If you don't know what kind of budget category your film is going to fall into, bottom line, it's going to be harder to complete your project. You see, the people that invest in your film, whether that be people who are going to work on it for free or for very little, and the people that decide to actively help fund your movie by giving you money in order to make it, all of these people are going to be far more willing to invest in you and your project if you can provide certain certainties about what it is you're doing. Certainties like, I've written a no-budget script and I know how to make it for just $1,000. As opposed to, I've written a sequel to Lord of the Rings and now I need investment. You see, the first statement offers a certain amount of confidence. You know what you're doing and you know how you're going to achieve it. The second statement is far more open and just leaves you open to a whole bunch of questions you may not have all the answers to. How much is it going to cost? About $300 million? Where are you going to get that? A studio? Do you know anyone at a studio? You're a studio! So when you're writing your script, it's a good idea to figure out where on a budget scale your film sits. So as you're writing, you can begin to plan out how you might actually make that writing a reality. Or the reverse. You know how much you've got, and then you can write a script to fit that budget. Either way, you're going to increase the chances of making your film project a reality by beginning this planning in that writing stage. Okay, let's get back to the action. What's the real difference between a no-budget movie and a low-budget movie? Firstly, in the most obvious sense, well, it's in the title. It's the budget. Or more importantly, where is the money coming from? Budget is a relative term and can be different depending on where the movie is actually made. Hollywood, for example, estimates that anything between 80 to 200 million, well, that's the budget of a blockbuster movie. Anything below 10 million, that's a low budget movie. Anything below 1 million, that's a micro budget movie. And anything under 100,000, well, that's a no budget movie. However, if you made a film in the UK, and I don't mean in a studio in the UK where Hollywood shoots all its Marvel films, but just a general independent UK film, £1 million would be seen as low budget, £100,000 would be seen as a micro budget, and anything under £10,000 would be seen as no budget. So it all really depends on how much money you have splashing around the place to make a movie in the first place. In a climate where money is freely available, then these terms tend to rise in stock. A no-budget movie is often made out of the pocket of the filmmaker themselves, or from friends and family who have donated to the cause. David Lynch made Eraserhead over the space of 5 years, making and painting many of the sets himself, financed with his own money or contributions from family and friends, and even his close filmmaking network. A low-budget movie, on the other hand, given that its expense is usually beyond the means of the average filmmaker's pocket, has to, most often than not, generate that money through some sort of studio funding, usually an independent film production studio, and most of the time these days a collaborative effort between more than one studio. Reservoir Dogs is an interesting case because originally Tarantino had been prepared to make it as a no-budget film. He had some money from the scripts that he had sold, and he was determined to make Reservoir Dogs for around $30,000 on 16mm in black and white. But his plans changed, and this brings us to the second difference between a no-budget and a low-budget movie. Network and opportunity. More importantly, who you know and when you know them. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, please subscribe, click the bell or hit the like button. Thanks! Tarantino had a production partner. He had a producer whose name was Lawrence Bender. With the script of Reservoir Dogs finished and in hand, Lawrence Bender spied an opportunity for the film. At the very time they needed cash and talent to make the film a reality, it was reported that Bender's former girlfriend had started dating independent Hollywood legend Harvey Keitel. Bender managed to convince his ex-girlfriend to give Keitel the script to make sure he had a read of it. Harvey Keitel liked it enough that he signed on to be a producer. This got Reservoir Dogs a production budget of around $2 million. It also gave them access to young actors in Keitel's network, in his circle, including Tim Roth, Steve Buscemi and Michael Madsen. The rest is cinematic history. Now, whilst Lynch didn't have the same opportunity with his first film, Eraserhead became one of the biggest cult films of the late 70s and the early 80s. When it came time for him to move on to his second feature project, his agent put him forward for The Elephant Man, which was being produced by Mel Brooks. A private screening of Eraserhead was scheduled for Mel Brooks so he could see what David Lynch brought to the table in terms of direction. He watched it, and upon leaving the theatre, it's reported he went right up to Lynch and said, "You're a madman, I love you, you're in." The Elephant Man was nominated for 8 Academy Awards. For Lynch, his no-budget determination gave way to studio and Academy opportunity. It can happen. The same is true for Tarantino. With his sold scripts, he'd written himself into an opportunity. And he would have made his movie had it been a no-budget movie or a low-budget one. This is how it can go. But this level of success isn't guaranteed. Actually, it's a little bit more like a lottery win. I made a feature. It also took me 5 years. It cost me around £6,000 or $10,000 out of my own pocket. I wrote it, cast it, produced it, directed it, shot it, cut it. I even did the score and the marketing. As yet, Mel Brooks hasn't hired me and Harvey Keitel hasn't agreed to collaborate on my next project. But that's okay. I'm not the only one in that boat. Most filmmakers are too. Now, every filmmaker should have the goal to emulate the success of David Lynch or Quentin Tarantino or whoever your favourite filmmaker is. But every filmmaker should have another goal too. And that goal is to love every film you make with a passion, no matter what the budget of that film might be. I just want to make movies. More than that, I need to make movies. It's like a bug. I have to do it. I need to do it. And I don't care if it's low budget, no budget, or whatever. You see, making movies is like a game, a problem-solving game. Making movies is a series of problems that need to be solved. Now, money, funds, a good budget is one way to solve some of those problems. But there are other ways too. And the less you have of it, the more creative, the more inventive you have to think and be in order to solve those problems. But with every problem you solve, the closer you get to finishing your movie. Someone wise once said, necessity is the mother of invention. If you need to make movies, then budget, it's not going to matter to you. But knowing the budget, that can help you make better choices and help those who want to invest in you and your project be certain about the choices they make too. Here's an exercise you can do right now. Ask yourself how much you have to make your movie, a no budget movie. Now write a list of all the things you can get with that money and also a list of all the things you're going to need to ask for free in order to get your project completed. Or if you want to make something a bit more ambitious, a bit bigger, something that we're talking about in the category of a low budget movie, then start to make a list of all the places and all the people you think you're going to need to know and need to ask for funds in order to get your movie made. Start strategizing about what it is you need to make that movie happen. And yes, I have just changed camera. My last camera's battery died and I hadn't charged the other battery. Bad producer, Paul, bad producer. And if all this sounds too much, too difficult, too stress-inducing, too big a list, then I want you to think about this one thing. Humankind made it all the way to the moon with less technology than a smartphone. All you have to do is make a movie. Now do this. If you want to kickstart your filmmaking career, click on one of the 2 videos on your screen now. They're going to take you one step closer to making that first film a reality. I'll be in both of those videos. Thanks for watching this one.